Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in. I greatly appreciate it. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. I'm Kim J of Kim J's Healthy Life. Uh, Hello, Hadreen. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. Hope you're doing well. Yes, yes. I want to talk today about beyond the protein that we normally eat. On a better health journey. So just trying to make sure that we're feeding our bodies with all that we need, all the nutrients that we need. So that's what I'm talking about tonight. Um, so yes, because your body needs more than just protein. So I know we all talk about protein, protein, and more protein. And so yes, I want to just kind of talk about that tonight. So come on in, my YouTube friends. Let's talk about it. Hello, 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 Felicia Marie B. How are you doing, sweetheart? Thanks for coming in. Yes, yes. So yes, let's talk about just I know we talk about protein, I was saying, but what about the rest of the things that we need besides protein? That's what I want to talk about tonight. Um I had a storm here where I live, and yeah, it was like winds were like I think between 40 and 60 miles an hour, and yeah, so my internet was acting up. Yes, so yeah, it has calmed down a little bit outside, but you know how sometimes it takes a while for everything to kind of get back up and running like it's supposed to. So yes, that kind of delayed me tonight. So yes. Um, but I thank everybody for coming in spite of my tardiness. Jane, how are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. Greatly appreciate it. Hello, Miss Jerlene. How are you doing, sweetheart? Hope you all are doing well. She said, yes, Kim J, I just learned my lesson on not skipping fiber. Yes, yes, yes. Definitely is needed. Fiber is needed for us to thrive. Hello, beautiful color. How are you doing, sweetheart? Thanks for coming in. Greatly appreciate it. All right. So everybody just saying hi to one another. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's just saying hi. Hello, Terry. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. So yes, we all talk about protein, y'all. Protein, protein, protein. We can't get enough of it, seems like, right? Well, people with kidney disease, we of course have to be careful with, the amount of protein we get. And I know, like, when it comes to like if you want to bodybuild and everything, you really need a great deal of it, to kind of help you out. Well, we all can use a good number of it, but of course, you want to ask your doctors, a nutritionist or a dietitian nutritionist to see what is best for you versus just hearing other people talk about because everybody's talking about it. It's not just people that are on GLP-1s, but you're talking about just the health um, community, period, right? Everybody's saying we need more protein. And again, like I said, it's very vital for us to have the protein. Protein is part of our macronutrients. And so, yes, we do need that. But while we need that, we have other macronutrients that we need as well, which will be your carbs and your fats, as well as your fibers. You need fibers as well. So I know Jane had talked a little bit about that. Very, very important. Fiber helps you, keeps you full longer too. So I know some people they may, say, especially if they're on a GLP-1 medication, they're like, hey, or even if you're naturally losing weight with no medication, or maybe the more traditional medications, and you're having issues where you don't seem like you're full, because of you eating a certain thing, try fiber. Fiber may help you fill yourself up a little bit more and, let you get, increase your satiety. Yes. Also, the protein does help that as well. So carbs is important as well, though I know a lot of people shy away from carbs, but carbs is very important as well. So your macronutrients is truly important for us, and we talk about that all the time, here and there. Yes, when you're on a weight loss journey, when you eat, kind of low carb, it definitely helps us lose the weight. If you're on a weight loss journey, um, you don't want to go too heavy on the carbs and not, getting that, and then you can't get your protein in or your fiber in. You want to make sure you're trying to fuel yourself with that protein and that fiber or those veggies before you eat your carbs. That also helps people that have diabetes, right? If you have diabetes, you're insulin resistant, or just trying to make sure you're not either one. You'll never be one. Those, things have those issues. Yes, if you eat like that, that definitely helps. Eating in a certain order. Some people do their protein first, then their veggies, then their carbs. Some people eat their veggies first, then their protein, and then their carbs. Either way, if you eat those two things first, the protein and the veggies, or the fiber, because of course you get fiber from veggies, then that would definitely help you out. Now you can get fiber from other things too, but I'm just saying, with your veggies, that's your natural way of getting fiber in. So we want to make sure we got, know what our macros should be, the macros, macros should be, so that we will, thrive on our better health journey. Now, of course, like I said, this channel is about better health in general, not just, GLP-1, not just, losing weight, what have you. I want to make sure that we all, the Sweet Life Squad, that we'll be healthy. Our life be sweet and it's healthy as well. So yes, yes. I was looking at somebody today, Anissa, and she was kind of talking about, her health journey. And, while she wanted to lose weight, she was talking about how, she wants to live. She wants to make sure she's living. She wants to be here to be able to take care of her son, to be able to be there for her family, and everything. So it's not, even though she's on a weight journey, and she's gotten her A1C, under control, and now, in the normal range and everything, she's wanting to make sure that she's living. So it's not just about the weight, or what have you. So I thought that video was really, really good today. If you haven't seen it, go check her out. Reset with Anissa. So yes, for those who don't know her. All right, so let's see. All right, not keep up on my fiber sort of created a few weeks of eating past my shot, but lesson learned on track. Okay, gotcha. I gotcha. Yep. I gotcha, Jane. Thanks for sharing that. Yes. Uh, there's just everybody saying hey to one another still. Let's see. All right, so Felicia says, yes, I needed to learn about my micronutrients. Right, so we want to talk about micronutrients as well today. And I don't know how many people know about the micronutrients when it comes to, health as well, because we hear all the time about macro, MACRO, macros, right, for short. But do we talk about micronutrients? So again, Felicia says, she needs to learn more about her micronutrients. She says I was way too focused on she was way too focused on her macros that she was missing important micronutrients. Okay, the MICRO. I became deficient in iron and zinc, but I'm building it up now. Yes. Awesome, Felicia. Awesome. Right? She didn't know that. You went to the doctor to find that out, Felicia? Is that how you found that information out? Because she was doing good on her, her journey. Everything was going well. She was eating a lot of protein, protein forward and everything, not eating as many carbs. She did eat some, but not, crazy amounts or what have you. But, that protein was, up. She was doing her green juices. She was doing all the things, to try to lose the weight, what have you. But then she found out at some point that, hey, I need to get more micronutrients. Yes. So I want to talk about that tonight. Hello, Tamika. How you doing? Just going to say hey to some other people that may have come in, and then we'll get with the program. All right. So hello, Bellflower. How you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. Yes. All right. Everybody just saying hi. Let's see. Hello, Miss Linda. How you doing, my dukes? How you doing? Yes, ma'am. All right. So, all right. So, of course, look, I'm going to, kind of, because I have some notes for it. And I have to have notes, y'all, because if I don't, I'm going to really go boom, somewhere totally different. And then can't get back there sometimes. That's just how I go. I have some brain fog every now and again. Yes. I'm a woman of a particular age. So, yes, sometimes that happens. But anyway, especially when it comes to things like this. I want to make sure that we understand health, and just in case somebody don't understand it, I like making sure that we know as much as we can, and I'm learning as well. So when it comes to macronutrients, macronutrients, which we call macros, that's where we're talking about, like I said, the protein, the carbs, the fat. Yes, those which the main ones, we need those in large amounts. Okay, we need those in large amounts every single day. And so when we go on our trackers, for those who have trackers, food trackers, you notice it tells you, hey, here's how much fat you may need, here's how much protein you might need, and here's how much carbs you may need, right? And then you put your calories in that you want in the tracker as well. And then it tells you this percentage, or you can do it, by, this is the actual number that I'm trying to hit, what goal I'm trying to make per day, or what have you, which is a great thing. We need that, right? The reason why we need macros is because it helps us when it comes to physical energy. Okay. So if you're having issues with energy for some reason, and it's not maybe a particular medication that you're on that's kind of draining your energy, then it could be because you're not eating enough macros. Okay. And I know sometimes, like when you're on a GLP-1, sometimes I've heard people say, okay, I feel kind of drained, what have you. I can't move a lot. I don't have a lot of energy. And part of that could be because of your macros. So you can check your macros to make sure you're eating enough calories, eating enough, eating enough protein, carbs, as well as fats. Okay. But then there's macronutrients too, MICRO nutrients. Okay. And we call that macros. I'm sorry, micros, my micros, my bad. So that is when you're talking about vitamins. Okay. The vitamins and the minerals that your body needs. Okay. So that's micro. It's the vitamins and the minerals that your body needs. So just like Felicia said, she needed some zinc in her body, as well as what else she said? Uh and iron. That's what it was. Zinc and iron. So her not getting those vitamins, it showed up in her blood work results, from her doctor, when she went to her doctor at some point in time. So she had to, try to tweak that and figure out what's going on and see how much she can get of it, right? So that's why it's important, y'all, to make sure that we're going to the doctors. I can't express that enough. You need to make sure you're going to the doctors, so many times a year. Now, of course, your doctor will let you know when you should go, but you don't want to try not to skip your doctor's appointments. If you can, make sure you go into your doctor's appointments. Very, very important. Okay. And then, like I said, if you can get a dietitian, they definitely will help you. A lot of doctors don't like getting too deep off into, what you should eat, because of course we have dietitians for that, and they specialize in it. So they're like, hey, go to your dietitian, or at least a nutritionist, to kind of help you. Now, when it comes to dietitians, you want to make sure that they can help you with, like, say if you had an ailment, you have a, I say morbidity. I don't know if morbidity is even a word, but we say comorbidities. So yes, if you have a sickness, a disease, whatever you want to call it, then yes, they can really hone in to help you with that. When it comes to if you just have a regular nutritionist, and they are not like specialized in it, like a dietitian nutritionist, then they can help you with general knowledge about nutrition. Okay. So say if you're a person that don't have any issues, any health issues, your health markers are good, your blood work is great, then you can, if you want to, you can just use a regular nutritionist to help you with, or like I said, any of us can use a nutritionist just to help us with the general things. Okay. I didn't know if everybody knew that. I learned that, not too long ago, since I've been on this health journey, the difference between a dietitian, nutritionist versus just a regular nutritionist. All right. So, anyway, so when it comes to the importance of the body and why we need the macros versus the micronutrients, or both of them. All right. So you got your carbohydrates, and that carbohydrates, they supply fast, accessible energy to your brain, muscles, and daily movements. So that's where we get our main source of energy, is through those carbs, okay, that we eat. And that's why it's important for us to make sure we're eating enough carbs for our particular bodies. Now, everybody's body is different, right? God has made us unique and wonderfully made, okay? So we don't know a whole lot about this stuff, because of course we are not scientists, we're not doctors and all that. We can share our own journeys, but as we continue to talk to the people that we need to talk to, like a doctor, like a dietitian, then and even physical training, if you have to, if you want to like get in the gym or what have you, then that helps us learn this stuff. Excuse me, it helps us learn these things. So yes, so carbs is very important. So don't be scared of carbs. Even when it comes to diabetes, we can't be scared of carbs. Now, what we need to kind of watch for, like I said before, earlier during this live, is that the order you eat the carbs in, especially if you're trying to get your A1C down, pretty quickly, okay, or even just in general, eating in a certain order per like, if for instance, if you're eating your your protein and veggies first and then your carbs, just have a little bit of carbs and maybe like a fourth of your plate is carbs, and the rest of it, half of your plate is veggies, and then the other half is your protein. Some people eat like that. Some people may have a little bit more protein and then have the veggies and the carbs, as a smaller amount, and that's fine too. But you just make sure you're eating if you eat in that order, that definitely helps. That helped me out, when I first started my journey to get my A1C down, back to the normal range pretty fast by eating that way. Uh, Protein forward, as well as making sure I'm getting the veggies in, which is where the fiber comes in at. All right, so carbs are very important because we need that energy. Now, for those who like keto, and I don't bash keto at all, if it is sustainable for some people, right? It's not sustainable for a lot of people, but some people, they're doing good on it. I follow keto people that were on keto for a long time, and I'm telling you, they're still doing it today. And then for what they're showing us on YouTube. But with that being said, there is a way to be sustainable, but is it sustainable for a whole lot of people? A lot of people that I've heard, they're like, I couldn't do that for so long, what have you. But even with people that are on keto, that are doing well on it, that's still on it even to today, and been on it for 10 years or so, the way they get their fuel or their energy is from the fats. Okay, so if you decide that you want to be on a ketogenic diet, which is a very, very low carb diet, then, or a regimen you want to call it, then that's where you're getting your energy from, is the fats. Okay, so that's why I don't know if you ever heard of low carb high fat diet. That's what they're talking about, the ketogenic diet. When you hear low carb high fat or LCHF, I don't know if you ever seen that before around, but yes, that's talking about a low carb high fat diet, which is essentially a ketogenic diet. All right. But okay, also you need protein. Okay, that's a macro too. Macro, MAC. Yes. It repairs your tissues. Okay. It repairs your tissues. It helps you build muscle. Even not just in the gym, but you're building muscle in that kitchen as well. Okay. Starting off in the kitchen and then moving on to the gym at some point. Okay. And then it supports cell growth as well. All right. And we need our cells to continue to grow. Right. We want those, if there are any bad cells, we want those to kind of be pushed out, and we want the good cells, to be replenished. All right. More good cells in our bodies is, helps us stay healthier. Okay. And then also, it also helps absorb fat soluble vitamins. Now, when I say fat soluble vitamins, I'm talking about vitamins A, vitamins D, vitamins E, and vitamins K. Okay. A, D, E, and K. Okay, that is your fat soluble vitamins, and that fat helps you. I'm sorry, let me back up. My bad. Let me go back. So proteins, because I didn't finish that. Proteins, it repairs your tissues, builds your muscle, protects your organs, and it supports hormone health. Okay, that's what proteins do. But the fats, which are macros too, MAC, it protects your organs, supports your cell growth, and absorb fat soluble vitamins. So the vitamins I was saying is the A, D, E, and K. Okay. So see how that's important to make sure that we're getting these macros in, because these are, it's very important for us too. So that's what I'm trying to, uh, per se, I guess, tell you tonight to make sure you understand that. All right. And then we're talking vitamins, just regular vitamins. That's when it comes to micros, MICRO. Now for that, um, that's powerful. It's a powerful tool for your immune system, to build your immune system up. Okay, so some people have compromised immune systems. They have compromised immune systems because of the ailments that we have. But if you want to build your immune system up, especially, even right before the winter, and as well as during the winter time, the winter seasons, because that's very important, because of course we get colds, the flu, some people get pneumonia and things of that nature. Um, you want to make sure you have not only those macros, macros, but you want to have enough micro, which is micros. Okay. It also helps heal wounds. Okay. So if you for some reason fall, hurt yourself, cut yourself, those are wounds, right? You having wounds in your body. And if you get the proper amount of micros, micro, then yes, it will help you heal your wounds faster, okay, and better, okay. So yes, and then also it helps keep your skin and your eyes healthy. All right, it helps keep your skin and your eyes healthy. All right, and then when it comes to minerals, all right, that's a micro too, micro. Keeps your bones strong. It regulates your heartbeat and maintain the fluid balance in your body. So so I'm just wanting to let you know that those micros, micro, those are so important as well, right? Very, very important. Now that I've told you that, you should kind of understand where I'm coming from about not just worrying about the protein, the macro nutrient of protein, but why it's very important to make sure you're getting your, not just your protein, but your carbs and your fat, and then not only that you're getting your vitamins and your minerals in as well. Okay, which are the micronutrients, the micro, very, very important. So let me jump back in this chat real quick. Uh-oh. That was me the other morning, on my live. Miss Bossway says, yes, yes. Got off topic, kind of. That's okay. That's okay. I love that live. I really enjoyed it. Yep, yep, yep. And sometimes we're like that. Even like when you go to church, sometimes the pastors may say something, and then something happens where it has to go another way, and then next thing you know, as long as he can bring it back in, bring it home, I'm happy with it. Especially if it's good stuff. If it's good stuff, if it's true stuff, I'm here for you. Okay, I'm here with it. All right. Felicia says, yes, I found out through my dermatologist because I was losing my hair, and low iron can cause hair shedding. It's good to always know your numbers of health. And that's true. That's true. That's true. Thank you so much for sharing that, Felicia. So yes, I know a lot of people have stated that they've kind of lost some hair while they've been on their better health journey, trying to lose weight and everything, and they may have not got, this may be why, like Felicia stated, you might not have gotten enough of micronutrients, okay, vitamins and minerals. So we want to, check that. And the doctors can check that, with certain tests. You can just go in there and say, hey, you don't have to know the names of the tests. All you need to do is say, hey, doc, I want to make sure I'm getting enough, not just macronutrients, but I'm getting enough micronutrients as well. I want to check my vitamin D levels. And then, when it comes to vitamin D, you get the vitamin D from, the best way to get vitamin D is from the sun. That's the best natural way of getting vitamin D. But there are some areas, that may not have as much sun, or whatever than others. So that's why we have supplements. That's why we actually supposed to use, whole foods. Make sure we're eating more of those than the processed and the ultra processed foods, so that we can make sure we're getting enough, in our daily, eating regimen versus, and then you can also do a supplement if you need it. Now, I know a lot of us use supplements. Some people using supplements and they don't even need the supplements. especially if they're eating, in a healthy way. But again, if you go to the doctor can help you determine what you're deficient in and what you may have a surplus in, or where you're, at on that scale. Whether it's you're low in it or deficient, you're in the normal range, which I mean you're in the green, you're doing good, or you have too much of it, which means now it's high, it's too high, right? I remember I was taking two multivitamins. Um, and one of the second multivitamin had calcium, it had zinc, it had vitamin D, and it had magnesium in it. And then I had gotten my blood work done, just my regular blood work for I don't know if it was my kidneys or from through my endocrinologist, but when I got the blood work done, it showed that I had too much calcium in my body. Now, remember, we're drinking. A lot of us are drinking coffees in the morning, protein coffees, and things of that nature. So I'm getting my milk in. I'm getting creamer. I have creamer that I'm putting in it, and things of that nature. Also, in other things I may be eating cottage cheese or sour cream or something. I may be eating all these things, that has dairy that can, potentially give me, some calcium and things of that nature, as well as taking not only one multivitamin, but I was taking two with calcium in it. So I just kind of I was overdoing it, and so thinking that was good for me. And so as soon as I came, and it showed that I was high on that, doing that blood work. And so he was like, you need to come off for the calcium, come off that multivitamin, that second multivitamin. You don't need that, because you're already getting a lot in your, you know, in your foods that you're eating. But then not only that, you're taking a regular multivitamin. So you don't need that second one, what have you. So I had to come off of it. As soon as I came off it, the next time I got my blood work done, my calcium was back in the normal range. It was back in the normal range. So yes, that's why it's important to make sure, and that's why I advocate for us to, and continue to encourage everyone to make sure that you're getting your blood work done, and making sure that, what you're doing. When it comes to tweaking things, which we all have to do, throughout our journey, we want to make sure that we are tweaking the right way, trying to tweak the right way so we can be the healthiest beings. Okay. That's what we're trying to do. So Bossway says, yes, Felicia, that's true. That's true. Hello, G's. How you doing? Thanks for coming in. Thank you for coming in. I hope you're doing well tonight. All right. So Ms. Jolene said, welcome, G's. Hello, Vivi. How are you doing? Thanks for coming in, sweetheart. Happy to see you. Hope you're doing well. And I thank all of y'all for coming in today. Happy that you all came in. Okay, Becky. Okay, that's fine, Jane. Focus on net carbs and whole grain. Correct. And then fiber helps to cut the carbs. Correct. Exactly, Jane. So I know for me, I talk about being, eating in a high protein, high fiber, low carb, regimen. That's how I eat, my food. But yes, I learned, and I learned it from keto. When I was doing keto at one point, I was like, okay, I can eat a certain amount of carbs, but as long as, I'm eating enough fiber, I'm going to make sure that, I'm going to check my net carbs, and that's what's going to matter, to me the most. The fiber helps, cut those total carbs. Okay. So you have, on the back of the label, which we talked about at one point, another live that I did on a Tuesday about, knowing your labels, reading the labels, knowing how to read them. But yes, if when you look at the back of that label, which you should never just look at the front of the label on your foods that you buy. You want to make sure you're looking at the back of the label for the nutrients as well as the ingredients. Very important to understand all of that. But when it comes down to looking at the label, you look at total carbs, and then they'll have, right up under that in another little section, it'll say total fiber, and then it say total sugars. So when it comes to diabetes, and then anybody that's on a health journey, you want to be careful with how much added sugars is in there. That in that number of total carbs or what have you. You want to make sure you are very selective with how many added sugars you're going to get in your foods. Okay, that's when it comes to it could really really make a difference when it comes to, is your blood sugar going to spike up too much, or or is it going to stay pretty stable for you? And everybody's um sugars do go up some, right, when you're eating, and then it should come down at a certain time. So between 60 and 90 minutes, there's a baseline, which is whatever your your blood sugar is before you eat, versus when you eat, then it'll go up some, and then it'll start coming back down. Between 60 and 90 minutes, it should be back down to that whatever that baseline number, or whatever the number was when you first right before you started eating. So yes, so that's very important for diabetics, particularly. But then, even like I said, it's nothing wrong with everybody knowing it, because like I said, if you have insulin resistance, this is important for you, because you could be potentially on the way to becoming a diabetic, if you continue on that road of being resistant, or very, very resistant, or it gets worse. So it's very important, because we don't want you to get that way. We don't want you to become diabetic. We want to make sure that you stay as healthy as you possibly can, and reverse it. Reverse that insulin resistance if you can. So again, that's why it's important to make sure you know your numbers. Get your blood work checked every so often. That's why it's important to go to that doctor. And as well as, like I said, if you can afford to have a dietitian. A lot of insurance companies, if you have insurance, they cover dietitian. If you want to go to a dietitian or what have you. I wanted to try to go to Nourish, y'all. I really did. The things I heard, the great reviews I've heard about, Nourish, as a dietitian nutrition for me, but my insurance company doesn't pay for it, because they're they like tele health, so I can't use them unless I pay out of pocket. But yes, there are others out there. It's not just them, but we hear so much about Nourish, and see there's so many commercials and everything. A lot of people in our community are using Nourish, as a dietitian, for a dietitian. And yes, so yes, but my healthcare company stated that I had to have it has to be somebody that has a physical location. Even if I do, a Zoom call with them, it has to be a physical location. They have to have a physical location where I can actually go to, or what have you. So yes. But that's my, and I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and even with that, just because it's a lot of people with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, but it just depends on what your health, your insurance, as well as your employer, when you, or whoever you got your insurance through, when they meet up and whatever, and they, decide this is what it's going to be, this is what I'm going to offer, that will determine what you actually can get, and, or what's not covered, under your insurance. So, for that year. So yeah, my insurance, my Blue Cross and Blue Shield, insurance does not cover like people like Nourish, unfortunately. So yes, so that's true. Net carbs and whole grain foods. Whole grain foods help, you when it comes to being fuller, as well as it's a food that it's not a simple carb. They're not simple carbs, because simple carbs can make your sugars go up very fast. Okay, it can make your sugars go up very fast, especially if you're eating it alone. Okay, if you're eating it alone, it definitely, or you eating it first before you eat the other foods, the protein and the veggies and things, or fibers and things. Yes, or fats. So thank you for that. But yes, it does cut your carbs. So again, total carbs minus the fiber will be the net carbs. And that would, depending on how many net carbs you get in that meal, that will determine, if your blood sugars may, spike up or not. So that's important. Yes. Thank you for that, Jane. Okay, Vivi says, I've tried keto before. It helped, but it was hard to do. Yes, 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 yes. That's true. I can say that same thing. It was hard to do. It was not sustainable for me. Now, if I was doing it on a GLP-1, I think I would be able to do it. I think I would be able to do it now. But for me, I can't do it because, even though I'm diabetic, I can't. I've had some issues with hypoglycemia, which is, low blood sugars. So I can't do the low carbs. I need to make sure I have carbs in my life. you know. Yes, especially, because I strength train, a lot. I also, walk a lot. I get 10,000 steps a day, on an average. I strength train 2 to 3 times a week. you know I stay doing something. And then also, with me, and I do cardio twice a week, just regular cardio, like maybe elliptical to stairmaster, things like that. I don't know if they even call it stairmaster no more. That's what we called it back in the day. But yeah, that stair stepper thing, yes, I do that. Some of that I do it, like I said, elliptical or the treadmill. If I go to the gym and do the treadmill, I normally ramp it up to like 5% of an incline, or between 5 and 7. So yeah, so I'm getting that in. So it's hard for me not, like I have to make sure I'm eating the carbs. And I think that's why my carbs were that's why I was having low blood sugars at the time, because even though I was upping my carbs, when I was telling y'all, I'm upping my carbs now, because I knew I was getting the low blood sugars. I was also upping that fiber. And so again, like Jane said, it when you look at the net carbs, it still wasn't enough. It was not enough for me. So I had to, figure that out. I had to tweak it. Yes, sustainable. Yes, we want to make sure we're whatever we're doing, that it's sustainable. Sustainable. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jane. Felicia says props to anyone who can sustain keto. I like carbs too much. Right, 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 right. I was at a point though, Felicia. I almost was keto when I first found out I had diabetes. I was almost. Almost. Yeah, but I want to get those numbers down as soon as possible, because I know the things that when it comes to being diabetic, what you can deal with. I mean, it really can be detrimental for a person that experiences diabetes. Now I didn't, and I wanted to make sure I was not going to have all those the issues that it could pose. Now you can live with diabetes when and be fine and thrive on with it, or what have you. You just got to know, like I said, how to eat. You have to make sure you're nourishing your body properly, so that you can succeed, you know, and you can beat it. Okay, you can combat it. So yes, and so that's why I decided, hey, I'm going to just go as low as I possibly can, what have you, still eat some carbs, but low, so that I can get my A1C down as quick as possible. Miss Tamika says, I ate low carb, high fat, and then said, I love carbs, so high fat, I'm sorry, high carb, low fat. Let me say that again. Tamika says, I ate low carb, high fat, then said, I love carbs, so high carb, low fat. I know that's right. Yep. Miserable with high. I got you on that one, honey. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I got you. Jane says there was a news article about taking too many supplements is causing some negative effects. Right. The article came out earlier this week. Okay, thank you, Jane, for that. Didn't see the article, but definitely know, myself. Like I said, I've dealt with it myself. So yes. Bossway says, I will ask my doctor tomorrow which vitamin B am I getting. I didn't think to ask before, because the body takes what it needs and gets rid of the rest. But that is only for B12. The rest can cause problems. Correct. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I heard that a long time ago from a doctor, that I was like, should I take B12? And she's like, well, they checked my levels and everything, and B12 levels were good. So she was like, there's no need to just take more B12, because it's going to come out your body. It's not going to stay in there, and it's not going to do no more to you, so what's the use of taking it? We can save that money, right, if we don't need it. So again, that's why it's important. And like Jane said, it can negatively affect you as well if you, decide to take the stuff and you really don't need it. We don't want to follow after people. We always say want to be leaders, not followers. But you have to just make sure that, it's okay to listen at us and see what we're doing and all that stuff. But always take it back to your doctor and find out if it's okay for you to do. And like I said earlier, making sure you know your numbers, so that you will, your blood work markers, your lab work, so that you will know if you need this stuff or not. There's no reason to take excess stuff just to be doing it, just because so-and-so said they would do it, same thing, like say, for instance, I know a lot of people like electrolytes, they take electrolytes to help, keep themselves hydrated, which is nothing wrong with that. do you need 1,000 milligrams of sodium, or what have you? Is that going to help you? Some people may need it, so they take it and they're fine. But others, that might be too much for you. It may be too much, and especially if you may have, say, high blood pressure, and the sodium may be too much, especially if you're salting your food too. You put sodium, you add sodium to your food. Sodium is in your food already, depending on, like, especially if you got packaged goods, a processed foods or ultra processed foods. Plus, you drinking, say a certain electrolyte, they got 1,000 milligrams of sodium in. That might be too much. It might be too much. When it comes to sodium, they tell you it's noted that we're supposed to. I think it's 2,300 a day, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not 23, it's 2,400 grams of sodium a day, milligrams of sodium a day. I was trying to look at my app real quick, make sure I'm saying it right. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let's see. I'm looking for it, y'all. Hold on. I want to say it's 2,300. Yes, 2,300 grams of sodium a day is what is recommended, right? And the fiber recommended is 25 grams. Now, if you're on a GLP-1 medication, you may need more. Again, dietitians can help you with that, if you need more. And again, also, since if you're on a GLP-1, your body is, holding in some of that food, is delaying the emptying process, using the bathroom, emptying your foods out or what have you. And so they, like the normal process it would do, but which is okay, since our doctors did give us the medication to use. But you just want to make sure that you have what you need, and not, like I said, take things in excess. Excess is not good. It's just not good for us. So we want to make sure we're doing what we need to do. Hello, Miss Nikki. How you doing? Thanks for coming in. She said she's working, but want to say, hey, thank you so much. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. All right. So let's see. Okay, so everybody's saying hey to Nikki. Thank you. Okay. Yep. So anyway, when it comes to our health journey, why we need it, the reason why we need these micro MIC, as well as macro MAC, macro as well as micro nutrients, you want to make sure that that your metabolism is stable. You want to sustain a metabolism, right? You want to eat the right macros, which keeps your thyroid and your metabolism doing well. Okay, that's why you want these macros and micros. You want both of them. Okay, so you want to make sure again that you're eating enough carbs, you're eating enough protein, you're eating enough fat, and you're eating enough vitamins and minerals as well. You want to get them mostly through your foods first. Again, that's why it's important to make sure we're eating more whole foods than we're eating processed and ultra processed foods. Now, especially in America, or just the world in general nowadays, we have so much processed food that's offered to us. They're very yummy to us, right? But we still need to make sure that we're more heavy on the whole foods than we are the processed and the ultra processed foods. Now, some of the foods we have to get processed. Okay, some of the foods we do. Majority of us, right, will more than likely have to get some processed food. But you want to try to get the minimally processed foods as you possibly can. That's where you want to get to. Now, you may be a person that's like, hey, I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to, do da 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 da, whatever. I don't have the proper, utensils or the the kitchen, the whatever. You don't have all that stuff. You may be living with living with somebody and you don't have access to the kitchen. Some people do have that, unfortunately, but you still, whatever you're trying to choose, whatever you're choosing to eat, you want to try to make sure it's as healthy as you possibly can get it. And when we say healthy, we're talking, things that are whole foods. Okay. Heavier on the whole foods than you are on the, ultra processed foods. Even like, say, for instance, you have, say you like Slim Jims, you like snacking, right? Okay. So they're protein. What else those things called? I'm gonna say Slim Jims. I can't think of what the word is, but y'all know what I'm talking about. There are healthy options out there for you to choose, and then there's some unhealthy ones. So you look at the back of that label. That's why it's important to read it, and you see what that label says, and you learn how to read your labels. And also, like I said, your ingredients. You want to learn how to read your ingredients. If you have a lot of ingredients in there, say it's 60 ingredients in there, and then you see another one that may have 7 ingredients, more than likely that one that has 7 ingredients is going to be a little bit better than, or much better than, the one that has 60 ingredients, right? Or 70 ingredients. A lot of times you look, and then you just learn even what those ingredients mean. I hear people talk about it all the time. Hey, if you can't even say the word, if you can't even read what the word is, then you may have to be careful with that, right? Sometimes I'll look at ingredients and like, okay, well, let me read, what does this mean? And I'll look it up, to try to figure out what that is, what have you. So we have to get used to, doing that kind of stuff so we'll know what we're actually putting in our bodies, right? That's what's so important. But again, sustaining our metabolism. That's why it's important for macros as well as micros to sustain our metabolism. We want that metabolism to be vibrant. Okay. So eating the right macros keeps your thyroid and your metabolism humming so you won't stall out. You don't want to stall out. You want to try to, keep pushing forward, right? Now, like I said, as when you're on a journey, you may end up, coming to a stall at some point or what have you, but you have to tweak some things to try to trick your body to say, hey, let's keep moving. I'm okay. Nobody has me, in the back of a, 18 wheeler, or whatever. I'm not fighting for my life. I'm not in a jungle somewhere and can't, that don't have, nowhere to, get to safety and things like that. I'm safe. I'm good, and I want to continue to thrive. So you find ways to trick your body to start losing again if you're trying to lose weight. Okay. And then you also want to prevent, from being skinny fat, so that's when you have a lot of fat in your inside, but then on the outside, you're very, very small. Okay. Very, very skinny, as they say. All right. So eating enough protein ensures you lose body fat. Okay. You want to lose the body fat. Like, for instance, for people, some of us, a lot of us have a lot of visceral fat, in our bodies, and maybe way more than we need to have. That's that brown fat that squeezes your organs out, like it's trying to choke it out. Yep. Like I'm thinking about, when you see people wrestling and you see how they hold them on that chokehold, that's how that visceral fat is squeezing our organs. So we want to make sure we get rid of that. We don't want to be, okay, I'm skinny, the scale says I'm real, real small, right? The number has gone down very, very far, and I'm happy about that. But you also want to make sure that you're being healthy, choosing healthy options so that you can become healthier, right? You wonder, sometimes you hear some, people, maybe on the news, you heard, okay, this person, had a heart attack, but they're so small and they jog, and they're in the gym and things of that nature. Well, could it be because, they have visceral fat and they didn't, maybe the visceral fat did not, they didn't get enough, get enough of it, or get rid of enough of it. Is what I say. Get rid of enough of it. It could be that. I mean, it could be some of anything. I know some people strength train and never want to do cardio. When you do that, are you able to, like, say if you get on that, how's your heart? How's your heart beating? Is it beating good? Are you having issues with your heart? And things like that, your blood pressure and things, are you having those issues? So yes, while it's very important, that's why I always say, while it's very important to strength train to help us build muscle and all that stuff, it's also important, or to me, equally important, to make sure you're doing your cardio as well. You don't have to go so hard like like everybody is, a teenager anymore, but you want to be very mindful of it to make sure that you are helping your heart stay healthy, pumping like it should. Okay. And it also helps with releasing that body fat. All right. So again, preventing skinny fat. Eating enough protein ensures you lose body fat, not precious calorie burning muscle. Okay. All right. And then unlocking energy. Without macronutrients like B vitamins, for instance, your body cannot actually unlock and use the energy from your foods. Okay. And it leaves you feeling constantly drained. And we're on this health journey. We don't want to feel drained. We want to feel the energy. We want to be, our metabolism to, be moving, be vibrant. So that's important, for us to make sure that we're getting those macro and micronutrients. Okay. And then let's see what Nikki is saying. I'm so old. I thought about the old cartoon with the weed trying to choke the flower. That too. Yep. When you were talking about visceral fat. Correct. Yes, Nikki. Yes. Hello, Lily. How you doing? She said friends and family can also be a downfall. When I cook healthy, they say I can't cook because I don't use a lot of salt and sugar. Honey, listen. After a while, they'll learn how to eat it, right? Yes, yes. And I mean, that's why, I know some people, they'll cook like that. And they're like, if you want your own salt, then that'll be for you to put it on, your plate. But I'm going to cook like I need to cook to make sure we all are healthy, Sometimes that, I've heard people say that, or what have you. And then, you have your salt, but then I know some people, when they start like cutting back on their salt, what they do is they they make like turn the heat up on the heat. They may eat a little bit more of the like cayenne peppers, things like that, or what have you, or the red peppers and things of that nature. Also using a lot of herbs, like natural herbs, fresh herbs, that helps you when you decide to take, kind of cut back on that salt. You can use your herbs, and that should kind of flavor up the food a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know what we want. I don't want flavorless food. I want to make sure I'm still enjoying what I'm eating, because that's sustainable for me, making sure I'm able to enjoy what I'm eating. So like we have Mrs. Dash, or Dash, because now I think they took the Mrs. off. It's just Dash now. Yes, they have some very, very good seasonings that's that doesn't have salt in it or what have you. I still use a salt. I know a lot of times you can use, sometimes less is more. Like if you use Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, like pink Himalayan salt, so, the coarse salt, those salts are a little bit supposed to be a little bit better than like a table salt, like a Morton, if you know what Morton's is, the table salt. So the fine salt, yes. The normal salt that we use, yes. So you may want to use something like that. That helps. Also, some people use honey instead of sugar, or they use agave, or you can use allulose. Allulose is good for somebody that may have, especially trying to be careful with blood sugar spikes. Allulose is a good you know, or monk fruit. That's also is good as well. But I know some people use agave as well. Dates I heard was good. I have not tried the dates. I know low carb queen, my auntie Queen, she uses dates a lot as well in her food. She showed us on her channel. Yes. Bossway says, Lily, yes, they can. Or always walking around eating and cooking what you cannot eat. Yep, that happens as well. Yep. Yes, yes. So like for me, because I'm a little bit more strict on what I'm doing versus say my husband. We both have diabetes, but we do something different. I can't make him do what I'm doing, right? He's a grown man. Okay. I can offer things to him. He's better than what he was, when it comes to certain things. But yes, I think with me having, developing diabetes too, and he's seeing me on my journey and things like that, it's some things he's like, okay, well, let me try this. Well, let me try that, and he's learning to eat even healthier, what have you. He knew like the main stuff. Hey, I don't need a lot of, don't eat no sugar, don't eat this, don't eat that. But again, is that sustainable? And I know back in the day, they used to say stuff like that. You can't, if you're a diabetic, you can't eat, you don't need to eat no fruit. You only need to eat, say berries, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the fruit, they too high in this, they too, in the sugars. But again, if you know the order, if you find an order to eat in, veggies, protein, carbs, then, and that's a natural sugar. Those fruit are natural sugars, right? It's not like you're actually putting table sugar. Straight added sugars. You're adding sugar to it, pouring sugar on it or what have you. They're natural sugars. They're whole foods. Fruit is. So with that being said, the ones that grow, you know, in nature or what have you, those are good foods for you. So you don't want to just eliminate it. You may have to minimize it, okay? Or like I said, eat it in moderation, small amounts. But again, if you eat your veggies, protein, and then your fruit, then that's fine. That will be your one carb, for that meal is a piece of fruit or whatever. And then you can kind of like, okay, well, I'm not going, if you can be this person, hey, if I want rice, I'm gonna eat rice, but I'm not going to get a piece of cake or a piece of fruit also. I'm just going to have the rice, and you can figure out which rice is better for you for that moment. When it comes to certain rice, there's another thing that you can do. You can put it in, you can cook it early and then put it in the refrigerator or the freezer and then take it back out and then serve it, warm it up and serve it for yourself. That helps, with the resistant starch. And so therefore, your sugars won't spike as much, when you do that. So yes, there's ways to get around it where you can still eat and enjoy your sweet, healthy life, right? There's ways to get around it. You just have to be careful, research. And like I said, if you can get to at least one dietitian appointment, they can help you understand what's best for you, for your situation. I forget about Miss Dash. Yes, 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 yes. I started buying Mrs. Dash, since I started this better health journey because I wanted my blood pressure to go down too. So I was, making sure instead of eating, because I would do like Lawry's, what is it? Probably 4 or 5 things I would do. Lawry's, on my food, I would put Lawry's, which is a seasoning salt. It has the first ingredients is salt. Okay, so that's another thing. If you're looking on your labels and you're looking at the ingredients, where is salt in those ingredients? Now, if it's like say if you got 7 and it's like number 5, 6, or 7, that means it's not as much salt as if it was, the first, second, or third, ingredients, right? So then that means you can, use that sparingly, and then you will be okay. You will be lessening your sodium intake doing it that way. So yes, look for those type things. They have a lot of seasons. But yeah, for me, I used to do Lawry's, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder. Yeah, those are the 4 things I would use, and I still use them today. I still use Lars today, but they have a low sodium Lars. If you like Lars, you can't get enough of it, you can do low sodium Lars. Some people went to Weber's, some people use Morton's, but you need some salt. Like I said, you need 2,300 milligrams of salt a day. So you definitely got to have some, right, in your body. Very important still to make sure your sodium is where it's supposed to be. Yep. All right. So Lily says, my doctor told me to cut back on the salt, but it's hard because I want to make everyone happy when it comes to my food in the house. Understandably so. So again, if you want to get something, just use one. Maybe I'm not, I'm not no doctor or nothing like that. But what I did was I use the Lawry's, right? I use less of it. I don't use as much. Or like I said, you can get the low sodium. It's still good. It still give you that oomph, right? But it's not, to the point where I'm putting too much in there. It's less sodium. And then I put my onion powder, garlic powder, pepper. I still do that. But I also start using herbs as well. That helps out as well. Plus, I'll add, like I said, Mrs. Dash. I got several of Mrs. Dashes. But at one point, before I started this, I would also use like the McCormick Grill Mates. I would use that too. And I think the first ingredient in that was salt as well. So I got salt in my Lars as the first ingredient. I got salt in the McCormick as the first ingredients. I may grab something else and use that, and I got salt in. So I had a lot of salt build up on my food or what have you, because I like, good tasting food. But again, as you continue to move on your health journey, you'll start learning more stuff, and then you can start, learning ways to tweak it so that your food will still be good to you as well as your family. But there are times when I just cook it for me. Certain things I cook for myself. You know, when I use cottage cheese, and nobody in this house would eat cottage cheese, not one person. And I don't really overly love it. But it's certain food dishes that I will make that I can use the cottage cheese because I don't like the curds. It's a taste, it's a texture thing for me. But I will put it in certain dishes. And with that being said, but they don't want it. They like, nope, not at all. No, no way, no way, Jose. But like I said, so I may end up, making two dishes that night or what have you. But yes, Lily, if you try to, just experiment with some herbs, that may help you out as well. Some fresh, especially fresh herbs, that may help you out. Or like I said, you go in that seasoning aisle, you start looking, you just kind of stay over there in that seasoning aisle a little bit and just start looking at some seasonings and seeing, because you may be able to find some things where the salt is a little bit less on the in the ingredient section, and then so you still get some salt, but it's not to the point where it's way too much sodium. Look for the lower sodium items or whatever, or have one sodium, you know one thing that has salt in it, one ingredient that has salt, and the rest of it, make sure it's just herbs. Okay, that may help you. That's what I do. All right. So G says, great job tonight, encouraging people to lift those weights and protect the muscles. Cardio comes a bit easier through regular movement, but lifting weight requires a more direct effort. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, G's, for that. Yes, sir. It also extremely important. We are eating enough to energize our bodies to work out. Yes, yes, yes. I talked about that a little earlier. Very important to make sure you get enough carbs in, because when you don't get enough carbs in, when you don't get enough macro or micronutrients in your body, then your body suffers. Your body suffers. Again, it can cause you to have very, very little energy. So you got to make sure you're getting enough, of these things, of these nutrients, so that you can thrive. You want to thrive. You don't want to just be, oh, I'm losing this weight, and then you're not, you can't do nothing with, your body. You can't move your body like you're supposed to. You don't have the energy, to play with your kids or your grandkids, things like that. Or you can, want to go, oh, I may want to go walking and I can't get but so many steps in, when really capable of being able to get steps in, what have you can walk, in other words, but you can't walk but so far. And I'm not talking about people that may have another, ailment that's making, preventing them from walking. I'm talking about people that can walk, that just won't walk, because, they don't have the energy they supposed to have. These micronutrients and macronutrients helps us in this effort of moving our bodies, being able to do the things we want to do. Those things that we see people do, on social media, and be smiling from ear to ear. Oh, I wish I can do this with my family, my kids, my grandkids, my husband, my loved one, whoever. Yes, you want to be able to do that. You want to be there. We want to be here long, and we want to be here healthy. We want to be healthy. And this medication, if you're on a GLP-1, it definitely helps you with that. If you're not on a GLP-1, you may have had weight loss surgery. You got it for a reason, but you still want to make sure you're getting enough, nutrients in your body so that you can live long, and you want to prosper. That's all I'm saying. You want to prosper, and be in good health. Yes, Ms. Jolene says she agrees. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So Felicia says, I agree. I rarely eat the same meals as my family because I eat much different than they do, but I don't cook unhealthy meals anymore. Yes. So she found ways to, and I'm saying it because I know me and her talk. So, she found ways to, even kind of convince them to, hey, let's eat a little healthier. Let's do this together. Let's, change some things. She found ways to tweak things for her family, to be able to, be even healthy, choose healthier, choose wiser as well. Same thing, like I said, with me, my husband, he choose wiser now than what he was at one point. G says, also extremely important to know your numbers. Fat loss is much more important than total weight loss. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, so look, he giving a what is it? A amen to what I done said. Yep. Yes, he's confirming what I'm talking about tonight, y'all. Thank you so much, G's, for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, honey. Yes. So, y'all, we know we've gotten the information that we need, so we are ready to do what we got to do to make sure if we're not doing it already, because some people may be already doing it, But as we continue to listen in to our, the people, the content creators, different, perspectives on how they're, learning how to be healthier themselves. Like I said, don't just take what they say and run with it, or what we say, but you want to make sure you fact check us. You want to make sure you're going to that doctor and figuring out what needs to be done for you. You want to do your own research, because even I've been to the doctors. I mean, how can we advocate for ourselves if we don't know what we talk about? We want to make sure we're researching ourselves, on and a lot of times you do have to go on websites. I know some people say, well, you got to be careful going on the websites. You do have to be careful, but you still can do it, as long as you know what you're doing. You can do it. You want to go on reputable websites, not just any old thing. You want to make sure that you're going on, things like, say, if when it comes to health, I mean, there's like different institutes that you can go on their sites and find out information. You can, like, there's different even studies, like abstract, research that people have done to find out information, if you know how to read that kind of stuff. There's .coms there, like, say, for instance, Mayo Clinic is a hospital, but they also, have websites where they tell you different things to try to keep you, abrupt when it comes to your health and what you can do. It's so many different ones out there. But yes, if you can find reputable websites, matter of fact, look up in Google what is a reputable website, and they can tell you what you can look for when it comes to looking for things when it comes to your health, and just make sure that you are doing great for yourself and for your family, and hopefully what you're doing, your family sees you're doing, because a lot of times you try to tell them and they don't want to hear it, but they start seeing you, and the more they see you, the healthier you're getting, and you're telling them how you're doing, and you're telling them about your blood work results, and they're seeing what you're doing. They'll start, trying to mimic some of that stuff that you're doing. It'll get them excited sometimes about it, but they definitely have to make sure they come up with their own mindset to say, okay, listen, I'm going to start doing better as well. My loved one is doing better, and I want to do better too. You'll start finding them, okay, she drinks a lot of water, and she's looking better. Her skin is clearer, she's more vibrant, things of that nature. She's slimming down and all that. Or I might need to, kind of look a little bit harder and seeing what she's doing, kind of, and they may not want to do everything right away. They may not even want to do it right away at all. But at some point, they may decide to start adopting some of the things that you're doing. They start asking you a little bit, well, what you doing with this? They start getting very inquisitive about what you're doing, because they're checking you out. They're looking at you, whether you realize it or not. They are. And hopefully at some point they will determine, hey, I need to get healthier as well. I don't want her to be healthy and I'm not healthy. Wait a minute. Or I don't want him to be healthy and I'm not healthy. We have people in this audience right now. We started GLP-1. Next thing you know, you find out the spouse, they'll jump on the GLP-1 too, what have you, or a better health journey. It may not be a GLP-1, but better health journey. Yes. Lily says, Boss Way, I told my family I will start cooking my own meals, and if they don't like it, make their own food. Now that's truth be told, honey. I just don't know what else to do at this point. Listen, you do what you think is best to do. Like you said, sometimes they like I said, some people say, well, yeah, you got to, just like when we go to a restaurant. If you don't like something, that's why they got that salt and pepper on the table. If you need some more, then you put it on yourself. But the restaurants, they have a certain, guideline they have to follow when it comes to feeding everyone, because they have to remember that everybody in that restaurant is coming is not the healthiest. So I can't put a buttload of salt, on this food. So I have to be careful. I can only use so much of it, things like that, So they have that salt and pepper. Even if it's not on the table, you can ask them for it. If you go to a restaurant and don't have it on the table already, they'll ask. You can say, hey, do y'all have salt and pepper? what have you, and then they can put it on there. But let them do it. You still do what you need to do for your household, what have you. But like I said, if you check out some of them seasonings, those other herbs and everything, and spices, it may, level you up big time, level that food up, make that palate, and hopefully the palate, will want it even more, the better foods. Okay, yeah. Okay, G's. Yes, yes. He says, come see his numbers. They are posted. I know that's right, G's. All right, so Lily says, you're right, Kim J. Maybe if I put myself first and they see results, they will follow suit. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm going to tell y'all, more than anything, keep praying about it. Keep praying, keep lifting them up in prayer about it. God, I want my family to be healthy, not just me. I want my family to choose healthier and wiser when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to moving their bodies. I want my family to live longer and prosperous. And he may, start after a while, like I said, you may start seeing changes come about, and all you just smile a little bit and say, thank you, Lord. Thank you. I see you, God. I see you. I see you. You ain't even got to say nothing to them about it, or what have you. So yes, they can always use the salt and pepper, if they need some extra. I mean, I've been to a family member house where they cooked something. I didn't really care for it. Guess what I did? I got some seasoning. I put some in there. I put a little bit extra in there or what have you. And I'm not talking about just salt. I'm just saying in general, like I may put some more herbs in there or something like that. I've done that before, or what have you. But I'm not going to, trip on them because they decide to do it a certain way or what have you. And I don't want to make them feel bad, that they, don't cook like I cook, what have you. So yes, yes. Let me see. What else I want to say? Um, So I know, like for people at GLP-1, we sometimes have an issue when it comes to, how much we can eat. So because the medicines that we're on, the GLP-1 that we're on, depending on which one we're on, it can slow down, our stomach, and it can also crush our appetites. It can, make our appetites very small. So with that, you want to make sure, and you're eating less foods, then you want to make sure that every bite counts. You want to make sure that your foods are packed with nutrients. Okay, and like I said, those herbs, the herbs and minerals. I'm sorry, I should say the fresh herbs that if you add fresh herbs to your foods, that is good too, because that can help you get some nutrients that you need. That can help boost those nutrients up. So that's that helps as well when it comes to you cooking and everything to make sure you get your nutrients in, even if you can't eat a lot at one time. You can also make sure you're eating, instead of say 3 meals a day, you don't have to eat 3 meals a day. You can eat 6 small meals a day if you need to. That could help as well. Um, that definitely will help. For those who may have issues when it comes to sitting at one meal, you can't eat a lot at this time because of what you may have, like I said, have some kind of surgery and you can't eat that much. Then you need to make sure you may have to do 6 meals a day or 5 meals a day, but making sure you're getting your nutrients in, making sure you're getting your calories in, your macro and your micronutrients in a day is so important. And then also making sure that you're moving your body. You're moving your body, doing some kind of strength training to help you, as well as cardio. And walking is cardio. That is cardio too, for those who don't know. That is cardio. And you can always up your walking game by you can get a weighted vest that helps, that gives you some weight, so it's helping you both, strengthening your body as well as helping the heart beat like it's supposed to be, right? We need that heart, y'all. So it's very important. Again, I can't stress it enough to make sure that you're doing some kind of cardio so that you can, make sure that heart is healthy. But not only that, doing that strength training, that resistance training, so that you can help when it comes to the muscles. A lot of times when we get older, as you get older, sometimes you may take a fall. And if you take a fall, you want to make sure that your muscles are built enough that you are able to recover faster, that you will be able to recover at all. Some people that, as you age, you lose muscle. Anybody that's losing weight can lose some muscle, whether you're on a GLP-1 or natural, least whatever you are, you can lose muscle, what have you. But That's why it's important to make sure we're strength training. That's why it's important to make sure we're strength training, so that we can help retain our muscles as well as build new muscles. Okay. But again, as you get older, you got sarcopenia, you got, osteoporosis, you got osteopenia, you got all these different things. Your muscles are being broken down, and because you're aging, that's just a part of aging. So with that being said, if you do some kind of strength training, whether it's weight training, your own using your own weight, using resistant bands, or using even canned goods, water bottles, those things can still help. It still supplies you weight. Like I said, the vest, that weighted vest, that helps you. It helps, continue to make you, be able to. It strengthens you. It strengthens you, is what I'm saying. But you want to make sure you're not being malnourished just to lose some weight. You want to make sure that you are properly nourished. That's so important, to be properly nourished. Okay. We don't Weight is not that big of a deal to be malnourished, to wind up being malnourished. That's not good at all. That's not good at all. And that's not going to help you live a long, prosperous life, which is what most of us all want to do. I'm thinking all of us probably want to do. All right. And then the dangers of muscle loss. Rapid weight loss often causes the body to burn muscle for fuel instead of fats. Okay. You must aggressively prioritize your protein, which is, like I said, a macro, macro, to save your muscle mass. You want to save that muscle mass. And so what happens if you don't get enough? You It can cause your hair to start falling out. Again, I said it earlier. Some people on this GLP-1 medication, some people, on this weight loss journey in general, natural or no, or medication, through medication, losing hair, needlessly losing hair because we're not getting our proper nutrients in. So yes, this is very common, more common than you probably think. Very common. You're not alone if you have this issue, especially on a GLP-1 journey, because you're losing so fast. And like I said, you're not eating enough nutrients, and not getting enough calories in. And so therefore, your hair is suffering from it. And so when you lose the weight too fast, or you eat too little protein and and you don't get enough iron in, your body goes into survival mode. It views your hair as non-essential and shuts down the growth cycle, causing excessive shedding. Okay. So you don't want that. And then now you're trying to, reverse it, trying to figure out what ways I can do to reverse it. So you want to try to that's why I want to tell you all tonight about it and mention it, because I don't want anybody else to have to lose their hair, needless to lose their hair. So that's why we want to make sure, it's important to get it in, not just lose weight. But weight is important to lose if you have too much on your body. More important, I don't want nobody to get that confused. I'm not saying that. That's very important. Sometimes you need to lose this weight so that you can be healthier, right? But you don't want to do it to the expense of losing your hair, or losing your muscles, things like that. You don't want that. All right. And then extreme fatigue and brain fog. A lack of carbohydrates or iron reduces oxygen transport to your brain and muscles. So you may pass out. That may be why if you've had an issue where you passed out, that may be why. Because like I said, you got brain fog or you got fatigue. That may be why you're not getting enough carbs in or iron in. So therefore it reduces the oxygen that's going to your brain, and we need oxygen to go to our brain and our muscles. Okay, and therefore if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it makes us feel weak. All right, and then weak bones and fractures. Again, I've already talked about that. If you're not consuming enough, vitamins and minerals and things, you're not going to have, strong bones. If you're not exercising, strength training, you're not going to have the bones that, the strong bones that you need. Right. So it increased a chance to have fractures if you fall, what have you. But you need enough calcium and vitamin D, not too much. You need just enough. You need enough. So the only way you're going to find out what you should have, how much you need, is to get checked by your, through blood work. so that you will know how much you're deficient in. If you are, if you have too much of it, you might need to come off of something so that you won't have, so that you can get in that normal range, and maximize on that by trying to get in that middle if you can, the middle of the normal range. That's, that's the best place to be if you can get there. And then brittle nails and dry skin. Now, ladies love nice, long, strong nails. Even men, you want your nails to be strong, right, healthy, and you don't want your skin to be too dry, right? So a lack of healthy fats and vitamins stop cellular repair. You don't want that. You want your cells to be able to repair. So you want to make sure that you're getting your nutrients in, leading to dull skin and cracking nails. Nobody wants that. And then weakened immunity. Again, we talked about that a little earlier. Skipping out on vitamin C and zinc makes you highly susceptible to getting sick more frequent. Okay. And you don't want to get sick if you don't. We want to be, again, healthy. So, just go over a couple of foods that can help when it comes to macros and micros. All right. If your appetite is low, you can look for foods that give you a healthy dose of both um, macros and micros. Okay. Salmon, for instance, is high in protein and healthy fats, which are macros. Plus, it's packed with vitamin D, vitamin D as in dog, vitamin B as in boy, and potassium, okay, which are micros. All right. So healthy fats, vitamin D, vitamin B, and potassium in salmon. That's in salmon. Okay. And then Greek yogurt. That's good. It's high in protein, which is a macro, and it's loaded with calcium, zinc, and B12, which is your micros. Okay. You have eggs, the ultimate nutritional powerhouse. Perfect balance of protein and fat, which are macros, along with choline, vitamin A, and iron, which are micros. Then you have quinoa, a unique plant carb that also contains protein, which are macros, and delivers a massive dose of magnesium, iron, and fiber, which are micros. Okay. And then you have avocados. They're high in healthy monounsaturated fats, which is your macro. And then alongside of it, the the healthy fats that it provides, it also provides some micros, vitamin E, potassium, and folates. Okay, so we need those are a few items that you can get both macro and micro nutrition. Okay, and so therefore that will help you. I'm hoping this live is encouraging to you to make sure that you're getting both your micro and your macro nutrients, not just, like I said, to lose weight and just eating protein only, but you're getting enough proteins, enough fats, enough carbs, enough minerals, enough vitamins in. All five of those things are very important. Okay. Very, very important. And then also, I will definitely add fiber. Fiber is so important for us to have as well. Okay. Very, very important. All right. So that's what I have to say to you all tonight. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Um, All right. Yep. Okay. So let's see. All right. So yeah, that's it for tonight. I thank you. I thank you. If y'all have any questions for me, let me know. If you have anything to say, hopefully this helps you out. Like I said, just to understand macros versus micros, and why it's important to make sure you have them both. Let me know in the comments. Other than that, I am going to get up out of here, and so I can, you know, make sure I get the rest of my steps in, get me some food in, yes, and finish my night so I can get me some sleep in. I want to make sure I'm getting enough sleep in as well. All right, you're welcome, Boss Wade. Thanks for coming in and being with me tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. She says great live. I greatly appreciate you all. So yes, You too, sweetheart. Thank you, Tamika. Thank you for staying. I greatly appreciate you. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Lily. Thank you. Good night. Good night. All right, y'all. So good night. So I guess all minds and hearts are clear. So I do appreciate you all so much. I greatly appreciate you, each and every one of you, and I hope and pray that you do well, on your continued health journey. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Peace. And y'all go look, y'all go check G's out, okay?